we can start. We know that many people has to come, perhaps due to the rain, they will be connected to our WebEx room. In any case, welcome, and thank you for having accepted our invitation. I think it is a very important day because you will see because and why. And so I give the floor to our Vice Director of the Teaching and Learning Center, so he can welcome you and welcome Professor Sutherland. Please.
Thank you to all. And on behalf of the Director of the Teaching and Learning Center, Professor Torre, I would like to welcome all of you to this new initiative of the center. And of course, I would like to thank Professor Sutherland for accepting our invitation. And as you will see today, we will have the opportunity to reflect on experiences of collaborations between students and teachers with a view to creating a positive relationship in the classroom. So it will be very interesting. I hope we will have some ideas and some hints for our teaching. So thank you again.
Thank you. Grazie.
So thank you. And before introduce with some notes Professor Sutherland, I would like to thank Professor Luisa Menta of the University of Palermo and all the colleagues of the Teaching and Learning Center network, because if we have the pleasure to have with us Professor Sutherland is because we are working together. And this is a big result of the network. And as you may see in the future, we have a lot of big results, but this is one of the most important for the moment. So let's talk about Professor Sutherland. I have a lot to say, and I would like to really explain and introduce you in the best way I can, our colleague, because she has done really a lot in the field of student partnership, faculty development, and so I think for us it is important to know what are the fields of interest of our colleague, because they are our field of interest, our field of research. So it is important to share, because I think we can have some ideas and we can share some opportunity. So first of all, Kathryn works at Victoria University of Wellington in New Zealand in the Center for Academic Development. She served as Associate Dean, Students Learning and Teaching in the Faculty of Humanities and Social Sciences for about 6 years before returning to the Center of Academic Development. She coordinates the Victoria Early Career Academic Program. It's like our yearly start, designed to support early career researchers and lecturers by promoting mentoring networks, pedagogical development, and integration between teaching and research. She also co-leads Tearawai and ACO, Pathway to Learning and Teaching Fellowship, recognized by Advanced Higher Education as a framework that enables academic and professional staff to gain recognition for achieving teaching standards. In the past, she co-founded the ACO in Action program, where students and staff collaborate on teaching, design, and development. Her research focuses on the academic lives of early career academics, exploring development, identity dynamics, power, and academic communities. The theory and practice of academic development in higher education, examining how institutions, development centers, and staff can collaborate to improve teaching and learning. Student-staff partnership, this is the topic we will talk about today, has a way to co-design learning experiences and enhance teaching quality. And she has also published on academic success, academic developer identities, and the idea of holistic academic development, which looks beyond the individual teacher to the wider context. But I think we have to note that she has also some works that are really very cited, and among them we can remember Success in Academia, the experiences of early career academics in New Zealand, Holistic Academic Development, is it time to think more broadly about the academic? And she has received several teaching and research awards at both the university and national level. She is Principal Fellow of the Higher Education Academy and actively engaged in the academic community. She contributes to networks such as Higher Education Research and Development Society of Australasia and served as an editor for academic journal. She also won a lot of awards like TENS Research Medal 2021, the Higher Education Research and Development Society of Australia gave her the award for leadership in 2022. And then she won also an award for the best article, and the award was given by International Journal for Academic Development. So I think it's really a pleasure because we can learn a lot from her, and I thank you really, Kathryn, because she accepted to share all her experience with us. So now, Kathryn, the floor is yours, and thank you very much.
Grazie mille. Is it?
Yes. Okay.
Grazie mille. Buongiorno. Salve. Kia ora. Hello. That person sounds like she's done a lot of work. Barbara did a lot of research to find about all that information. It makes me feel a little bit tired, but I'm very excited to be here. You are the 6th presentation on a grand tour of Italy that has been organized by Barbara and her colleagues. And so I'm especially excited to speak with you today because it's the final one, and because it's about students. And if we didn't have students and we weren't focused on learning, we would not be the university. So it's a lovely way for me to finish my grand Italian tour here in Turin and talking about partnering with students. So I want first to say a few words in the Indigenous language of New Zealand, and I'll translate those into English. And then I will speak in English, but with some Māori terms. Māori is the Indigenous language of New Zealand. And when I use them, I will translate them for you. At any time, if anything is unclear in English or in Māori, please ask me to give more explanation or to slow down, because I have been learning French for the last decade, and I know how hard it is to try to follow in a language that is not my first language. So I will start. E ngā hau e whā, ngā mihi nui, he mihi mahana ki a koutou katoa nō reira. Tēnā koutou, it's gone.
Correct. We can use
back.
No. Or if you prefer, we can use this one.
I think it's back on again. No, it's gone again. That one's not working. I'll use this one. We have these amazing technical people coming rushing in. It would be good to be able to use one that I can walk with later, but we'll see how we go. Okay, e ngā iwi, e ngā reo, e ngā karangatanga, e ngā hau e whā, ngā mihi nui, he mihi mahana ki a koutou katoa nō reira. Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa. From the 4 winds of the earth, I greet you all tribes, all alliances, all people, all voices, I greet you. It's a real privilege to be talking with you here today. And normally for this topic, I would have at least one student co-presenter, because the whole concept of partnership is that students are always involved. But it's a long way to bring a student all the way around Italy to 5 different cities. And so I will share photos of my co-conspirators or colleagues with you as we go through. So let's see if all the technology is going to work for us. Not Luigi. I'll try on here.
We already said that we have a very bad relationship with technologies, and so we still continue to have it.
Barbara and I, we don't get on well with printers, and maybe today the computers are deciding that they are not our friend either. Okay, this is a proverb from the Māori language. Ngā te roro, ngā ku te roro, ka ora ai te iwi. And it means, quite simply, with your food basket and my food basket, the people will thrive or prosper. We have taken this concept, it's called a whakatauki, a proverb, into the university context to mean with your knowledge and with my knowledge, we can all learn more. So in the Māori culture, it's very common to speak in metaphor. And a lot of their words themselves carry deep metaphorical meaning. And then the proverbs can help us think differently about our practice. So I hope that today you will bring your baskets of knowledge and share them with me, as well as I will share mine with you. That's a picture of a traditional food kete or basket, and it's from our National Museum. If you want to go to that website, you can see more. But the concept of sharing together should be at the heart of everything we do as teachers in university. Grazie mille. Let's see what happens. I'll use it when I go down. Yeah. Okay. Right. Yes, everything's working. Right. A question for you as we get started. What values might be at the heart of a positive learning and teaching environment for students and teachers? So one value that I've shared in my title and in that opening slide is the concept of partnership. That without learning, teaching arguably is not happening. It's just talking. If all we're doing is talking and we're not finding out what's happening for our learners, it's not really teaching. So partnership is a value. What other values might be at the heart of a positive teaching and learning environment? So I'll have you think about that, and I'll come to you later and ask you to share. I'll give you some time to think about that. But first I want to share some of my university's values, and that may prompt some thinking for you. Okay, unless anybody has a value that they want to yell out at me straight away. Simone does, I can see on her face. Yeah. Cooperation. Cooperation, yeah, so that's like partnership, but reciprocity, that's deeply embedded in the partnership model, yeah. Respect, yeah. You can't have partnership without respect, and it has to go both ways, yeah. Listening is a good, it's an active value, yeah. Active, deep listening, not just listening. Yeah.
You need to go much deeper than just listening.
Yes.
So it has to be very deep.
Yeah. I like that verb, the exchange. So it's not just one person talking, it's other people, and it's that sharing and exchange of gifts. If we think of knowledge as a gift, and that slide, the concept is that we are giving to each other. So that might be generosity, might be a concept as well. Oh, you can see things up there, can you? Oh, you've got a better, you can tell me what's happening in the chat, okay? Yeah. Thanks. So trust, I spoke earlier in the week about trust, and we need to be far more proactive about developing trust. In the 21st century, trust is one of the values that the world is struggling to help students develop. So that's something we can ponder as well, because a good partnership to enhance learning and teaching requires trust. And trust is built on respect and exchange and reciprocity. Yeah. Okay, some really good ideas coming through there. Hold on to those and we'll use them soon. So my university has 5 core values. I'm going to describe them to you, and then I'm going to show you the poster that we use, and that is on many people's walls. That helps them to remember them. Obviously, there's only one person in this room who might know, 2 people, me and one other person, who might know what any of these words mean, but I'm not going to put Maria on the spot and ask her to define them. I will share them with you. I've highlighted the root word of each phrase in red, and I'll describe them briefly for you. All 5 of these words could take a 3-day weekend for us to unravel and discuss. So I will be giving you the very surface level definition. But I will show how we've worked with students to help people understand these in a different way. So the first one is manaakitanga. Luckily for me, the vowel sounds in Māori are exactly the same as in Italian. So when Barbara was reading out the name of one of the programs that I run, which is Te Arawaiako, she looked to me to ask, was she pronouncing it properly? She pronounced it perfectly. Many people in New Zealand cannot pronounce Māori perfectly because the English vowel sounds are very different from the Māori vowel sounds. But any of these words, I am 100% certain if you're Italian, you'll be able to say these very easily. So manaakitanga, the root word is mana. Mana is a very deep concept that means many things. It means status, so that the status that someone holds, status, or esteem, or their authority, or their power. But it is much more than that. It's about how they carry themselves and how they treat other people. So mana is inside of us. We all have mana. So we all have esteem and power and authority of some sort. A chief of a tribe arguably has more mana than just a regular tribe member because of their status. But a regular tribe member still has a lot of mana, and that mana can be increased by the way they treat other people, and it can be decreased by the way that they treat other people. So in some iwi, in some tribes, they argue that we're born with the same amount of mana, but the way we are treated and the way we treat others can either increase or decrease our mana. So mana is, as I said, it could take 3 days and we still would not define it well. But in this context, when you add the word aki to it, aki means to enhance. So manaakitanga is to enhance the mana of other people and of oneself. And it loosely translates, therefore, as showing respect, generosity, and hospitality. The hospitality part is the one that we take into the university context the most often, because when you care for and show generosity towards other people, that enhances your mana and it enhances their mana as well. And it often means sharing food with each other and nourishing people, nourishing their physical body in order to nourish their inner selves. So manaakitanga is showing respect for people, being welcoming, being hospitable. In a very simple terms, as a teacher, it means coming into the classroom wanting to be there, not coming in feeling cynical and tired, but leaving your cynicism and your tiredness outside and behaving as if you are in the place that you want to be right now and you are showing respect to your learners. And that can be really hard when we're busy and we're teaching 4 classes in a week, and this is the 3rd one, and it's Thursday afternoon and it's hot and we're tired, we need to think about how can we demonstrate manaakitanga towards our students, even if we're tired. And so that's one value that our university is encouraging people to demonstrate. The second is kaitiakitanga. Tiaki means to guard or protect. Kaitiaki at home in New Zealand are protectors of the land in particular, so conservationists. When we talk about kaitiaki, the name for our Department of Conservation has kaitiaki in it. So putting kai in front of tiaki turns it into doing the act of protection. The tanga, anga, ranga, they are just turning these into nouns, turning the verbs into nouns. So kaitiakitanga means to protect and to guard. And in the university, in our university, our version of this is guarding knowledge and demonstrating manaakitanga, welcoming students into our disciplines and helping them to become protectors of this knowledge, which we are all sharing and learning about together. Whai mātauranga is probably the simplest to describe. Mātauranga means knowledge and whai means to pursue. So at our university, whai mātauranga is one of our core values, the pursuit of knowledge. Another definition for that might be intellectual curiosity, so encouraging that in students. 2 to go. So the second to last one is whānaungatanga. Whānau means family or extended family. So whānaungatanga means to cultivate a collective sense of belonging. The example that I give for that one, when we're thinking about how we cultivate whānaungatanga in our classrooms, is that in our families, we know each other's name. But more than that, we don't mispronounce each other's names. And when in New Zealand, we have between 15 and 20% of our students are international, and they're coming from other places. Half of our teaching staff is from another country, from different places around the world. And to enable those staff, those teachers, and those students to feel welcomed, to demonstrate manaakitanga to them, to cultivate whanaungatanga, we need to learn to pronounce people's names as close to correctly as we can, because families would not mispronounce each other's names. The special irony here for me, however, is that my partner is French. I can't pronounce his name and he can't pronounce mine. Because mine has the H in it, so he calls me Kat because he can't say Kathryn, and his name starts with an R, and it's too hard for me. So in our family, we do mispronounce each other's names, but we still feel that we belong to each other. So how are we cultivating a sense of belonging for our colleagues who have come from elsewhere and for our students? What are we doing to get to know our students? Even in classes of 180 or 200 or 300, there are ways that we can find out who's there and make them feel welcomed. A simple thing that we can do is look at the records before classes begin. I don't know if you have access to who all your students are before teaching starts, but when I'm teaching big classes, I go into the records and I find out percentages of students from overseas, percentages of students who are more than 50 years old, for example. We have a lot of mature students. Percentages of men, women, and non-binary people. And I share those percentages in the first class so that the group of 300 or 400 students understands that this is a diverse group of people that we're working with. And it's a very simple thing to do. And it makes many of them feel seen in a way that they don't when they feel like the teacher doesn't know that I'm from far away, or if we can't know 300 names, but we can start to get to know things about those people that will help them to feel a sense of belonging. The last one is the most important for us today, and this was in the title of the program that I run, Te Arawai Ako. Ako means, in Māori, both to learn and to teach. So the reciprocity that, Simone, that you talked about, that has to be there in learning and teaching, is there in the fact that there are no separate words. You cannot teach without learning. Arguably, you can learn without teaching. You know, you can teach yourself, but it's still a form of teaching, isn't it? But the idea that that teaching can happen without learning happening, it's an impossibility. And so we need to constantly keep that reciprocity at the heart of what we're doing and think through what does it actually mean to turn that into reality. So we'll think about that today. So it's half of a poster that's been made for the staff in our university and students if they want to. And it has the values on the left. And then in the middle is a carving, a picture, all of which has significance. And there is more to this poster. And the word at the top is he heringa kaupapa. And heringa is in the name of our university, which is te heringa waka, which means to hitch your post, to hitch your canoe. Waka means canoe. Hitch your canoe up to this place. So heringa is the hitching post. You know, when you get off your horse, you take the reins and you put it over the post. It's that kind of concept. So he heringa kaupapa is the protocol or the way that we will hitch ourselves together at this place. And that's our mission statement, the University for a Better World. We draw on our whakapapa, that's our genealogy, so our history and our ancestry, our knowledge and our place to shape a better future together. And the values are on the left, and then on the right is what you'd expect to see in a strategic plan, and it's putting all of the things into what I think are less helpful action ideas, you know, about connection and community and what every other university has. But I think what makes our university a little different is having these values. So, a question for you all. I think everyone in this room is from this university, right? We've got some people online who are from another university. But what are your university's values?
UniTo has a mission statement. Do you have a mission statement?
Yes,
So people are asking if there is a mission statement. And a mission statement is different from values.
Yeah.
So you can see on our poster, we have a mission and we have values. And then we have the priorities. And below that, we've got goals. It's too much. I just like the values personally. But
I think we have a totally different approach to values, and we do not made. I think for us it's difficult to explicit our values because we all have values in teaching, and sometimes we put them in a regulation, we put them in projects, and we put them, for example, in a piano strategico. But it's different because we do not put them in something we share with students, for example, at the beginning. And so I think this is my opinion, and perhaps someone else wanted to share his or her opinion, but I think is this the way we look at it.
So our constitution.
mm-hmm. Yep.
It's, I think, the one.
Mm-hmm. So that came up at Palermo as well, that all universities have constitutions, and at national level you're constituted, exactly. At national level you are constituted to be universities, and one of the core values in that constitution is democracy and freedom. So you have those as values even if they're not explicitly stated in the way that my university states values, right? What else can you think of? Yeah.
The other university, I checked on website.
Oh, yes.
because of and regarding the practice and policies, it's more related to research and research. So there's nothing actually well defined or something. Let's say, since I'm going to teach directly on my page, I think that's the standard, let's say, the institutional way of universities get, but I think that you don't written anything.
We don't really have such a sense of belonging.
Yeah, well, maybe this. So somebody's saying that perhaps the lack of overt explanation of values or anything publicly facing that says this is what we stand for may contribute to less sense of belonging. That's what somebody has just suggested.
Why you have developed this at your place. It is to promote belonging.
It is to promote belonging, exactly. So you can't have these values without enacting them. Yeah, what's that? You can copy them. I don't think they will quite work in another language, but I think it is something that that universities in general can think more about. What does it mean to express what is important? And if what is important is the research, as you've just indicated, what message does that send to the people who do the teaching and then to the students, who many of whom are the recipients of both the good knowledge about the research, but are also confronted with having to think about how do I find my place here? Place is important in Italy, like it is back in New Zealand. You have deep, long history here. Barbara told me this is 1424 or something, this university. It's older than my country. I mean, my country physically has been there for a long time, but we don't have buildings that are this old, let alone educational institutions that are this old. The Maori came to New Zealand about 1,000 years ago, and they established centres for higher learning, wānanga, and so they have been doing higher level learning for a long time, but still not as long as over here in Europe. So place matters, and that's something to think about. What place-based values might you develop? Is there anybody who's following the chat, is there anything online that I could be, no, you haven't seen anything pop up. Or if there is anybody online who wants to share anything, feel free to jump in. Okay, so I've come down now. Let's stay down here for a while.
Okay.
So it's one thing to have the values, it's another to actually make them work. And we're a university with more than 2,000 staff and 20-something thousand students. So we're not as big as you, but we're a medium-sized university for New Zealand, and about 1,000 of the staff. Someone online has something to say, or is that just that?
Maybe they should not help us.
May we close?
Mario, pasta.
Okay. It's not, not everyone at my university, I've got people down the back trying to do things. Now someone's heart is beating very hard. Okay, go ahead. No, okay, we will carry on. I'm presenting to you something that might seem idealistic. Not everyone understands these values deeply, and not everybody is enacting them. They are aspirational. We are trying very hard to make them realistic, and I'll share an example with you of how that has been turned into practice. But having values and living them they're different things, and we have to work to make them happen. So one way that we've been trying to embed the values more is through sustainability as well. So one of our priorities is sustainability. So this picture is brand new. This is from December, when the building on the left opened. So the building in the middle, the wharanui, the meeting house, the small one, has been at our university since the 1980s. It was the first marae, or meeting place, in a university in New Zealand, and it's called Te Herenga Waka, the hitching post for all canoes. And we had 4 houses next to it that we deconstructed. We didn't demolish them. We did it all sustainably, deconstructed, and we built what's called now the living pa, and a pa is a gathering place for people. The living pa, the big building next to it, and you can see that it's got trees growing up the side of it. The building has been constructed to the standards of the Living Building Challenge. I don't know if you've heard about the Living Building. There are only about 30 buildings in the world that meet this standard. So we have constructed it to those standards, but we have to submit our application, I think, at the end of this year to see if we are approved. And we would be one of the only ones in the Southern Hemisphere to have a real living building. Everything was done. So when we deconstructed the houses, we did it where everything was either recycled or sold. Nothing, as much as possible, nothing was thrown away. The building itself has solar panels and its own water system. The water system feeds the building next door. So everything goes through a system in there and then goes through to the building next door, so that it's sustaining the building next door as well. And it's passive heating, so it doesn't have air conditioning, and it uses the sun. Apparently that was a challenge this winter. It was the first winter. And so they've got to do a bit of work to be able to warm up some of the rooms a bit more effectively. But this was the opening of the new building. And so the concept of sustainability is one that we've worked hard to embed. It cost the university much more to build this building this way than if we just built a regular building. But it was important that the building that brings people together to feel that they belong, where people are welcomed, so that is where we hold the welcomes for our university, that it be done sustainably. And so we had a project. This is showing you the process of it being built, and the little house is in the middle behind the yellow crane. And so you can see it just was completely demolished and rebuilt. And it's been quite the process. But what happened is that I'm going to share 2 programs today where we've partnered with students to help you understand how we're trying to put some of these values into practice. So the first program is called Summer Research Scholarships. They have a research focus, but there's an akoranga, a learning and teaching value embedded in them. So the idea is that in a summer scholarship, you're 3rd year and above, and you work with a teacher or a researcher or a community-based researcher to develop your research skills. So it's beneficial for the researcher because they get a research assistant, but they're an inexperienced research assistant. So it's quite a lot of work for the academic over summer to be supervising an inexperienced research student, but it develops their skills, and it gives a lot of help for the lecturer. So there's a good partnership happening there. The student works for 10 weeks, 40 hours a week. They get an $8,000 scholarship, which is about €4,000. So it's not a living wage, but it's a generous help. It would pay for their university fees for the following year. It's cheaper than giving the academic a research grant, right? Like small research grants are 15,000, €10,000. So this is cheaper than the academic hiring a research assistant, but it benefits the young students. Yes.
Question.
Yeah.
Because these are kind of because they then get these scholarship are paid by the university, but by
Yes. By the university. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
So the university pays for it. There is government funding that supports the summer. So university pays half, the government pays half. I think that's true. I'm pretty sure it's true because all New Zealand universities offer these. Yeah. Some lecturers, they love them because they get research assistants. Others, they've done it once and they'll never do it again because it was more work than they expected it to be. And sometimes you get great students, sometimes not so much. So what happens is the academic puts in their project. So in August, we bid to get a summer scholar, and the students then get a list. They're on our website now. If you search summer research scholarships, you can go and find out what the projects are that the students will then apply for. And so the student applies and says, I'm interested in these 5, and then they get assigned to one. So you don't choose your student, and they don't choose the project. They say, these are the ones that I could do. So you don't know who you're going to end up with. But it's a good program, and it's a partnership kind of a process. And the teaching that's happening is the teaching of research skills. So one of these projects a couple of years ago was about sustainability, and the student did it in partnership with, I'm just going to get my notes so I don't put you wrong. I've got too many pages here. Okay. So the student developed a website, and you can find it. I think it's just, you can type in summer, turning the values to life, something along those lines. I'll make it available to you if you're interested. But basically, for a summer scholarship, the student who was in the School of Design partnered with a design lecturer, 2 design lecturers, and the Assistant Vice-Chancellor Mā Tauranga Māori, so like Vice-Rector, but for Māori knowledge. And they designed a website that helped people understand the values that underpinned the building of this living building challenge. And the values were some of the ones that we have as a university, but there were more as well. And the student animated these values and then provided really simple explanations for them. And that website is now available for all staff coming new to the university. All staff can access it. Anybody outside of the university can access it. And it's a very welcoming way to trying to understand some quite complex values. And that was in partnership with an undergraduate student who then used their design ability to help us to understand these values more. And we now share this website with new staff when they arrive at the university. And that's one example of how we are trying to put the values into action. I would argue that people who have arrived at our university in the last 5 to 8 years know and embed the values much more than the people who have been at the university for longer. So they came in 2017. And they're in our strategic plan, they're on the poster, they're in our learning and teaching plan. They've made their way into other plans across the university. But the people who have been there forever haven't encountered them as much as the new people who we work very hard with to embed the values. So that's one example of a partnership, the Summer Research Scholarship. Do you have anything similar here?
We have tutors.
Tutors?
Students that I might need their attention.
Yeah.
And then they apply to help younger students.
Oh, yes. Okay, yep. Yep, so we have tutors as well. And we have a peer-assisted study scheme where senior undergrads will mentor juniors. Yeah. Yeah. Anything over summer that students can do?
Some schools.
Directly for polytechnic, we can organize, the professor can organize summer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this isn't summer school because the students can also do summer school. So, but they can't actually be doing any courses when they do a summer scholarship. So when they do a summer scholarship, that's what they're doing. They're not studying. They're doing their summer scholarship. Yeah. The focus is on the research and developing.
There is something similar.
Yeah.
For that reason, they are unpaid, but we have paid.
Yeah, right. So
In other funds, we can fund
Yeah.
kind of research.
yeah, so there is some research going on, but the professors are paying for it, not the university. Yeah. Okay, well, I'll share the second example with you. Oh, there's the website, if you're interested. I knew I had it. I was staring at the screen and wondering where it was. I'll leave it up there for a while for you if you want to copy that down. You might just find what they've been doing interesting. And I'll share with you how we're doing. Is everybody feeling good? Do we need a little break or we're doing all right? Okay, good. All right. So this is the guts of my talk today is this program. It's one of the things I've been in this job for 26 years, and this program would be one of the ones I'm most proud of. It's been designed from the very, very beginning with students completely. So it's not my program, it's our program. And yeah, I hope you'll be as excited about it as I am. And then I hope to hear a little bit about what you're doing with your program as well. So tell me what ACO in action might mean. Learning and teaching at the same time. Exactly. That was the test.
I'm from Polytechnic.
Okay. If I had a prize, you would get it. So ACO in action is putting learning and teaching together in action at the same time. So you've got that prize. And then the other one is, we don't call this a students as partners program. So the common terminology in the English speaking world for these kinds of programs is students as partners. We don't use that terminology because that implies that the students are taking a new identity and they are partnering with the special people, the lecturers, but the lecturers don't have to do anything different. The lecturers are partners as well. Why isn't it called lecturers as partners, professors as partners, right? So we call it a student-staff partnership program. Student-staff partnership program. We put students first and we say, without you, this wouldn't exist. And we are partnering with you. Students as partners to me says students come into this and put on a new identity to become partners with teachers. But it doesn't say, teachers, you also have to think about putting on a new identity and working with students. So we've been very deliberate. This was a suggestion from the students who helped to co-design this program, that we not call it students as partners, but we focus on partnership as being the important thing, and the who is doing it as equal. Yes, very deliberate. Yep. That was thanks to the students. Yeah. So in brief, and I'll explain this more as we go through, 2 students from 2 different disciplines, so you might have an engineering student and a history student, will be paired up with an architecture professor. The 2 students will meet with the professor and they will discuss what the professor is interested in. What does the professor want to try to enhance with their teaching? For some professors, they're looking at redesigning a piece of assessment, for example. So it's a very particular partnership just focused on that one piece of assessment. For other professors, they just want general student input into how their lecturing is going. Are we engaging students well? Are people, how do I get more students to come to class? That kind of thing. Others want full course redesign. And so that partnership might be a longer one. And we pair up the students with this person from another discipline. There is no power relationship. There is a power differential just by virtue of the teacher being in authority, but they're not in authority over these students. These are not their students. They're not giving them a grade, and the students are not feeling under pressure to impress this professor because they don't need anything from this person. And it emboldens them to feel that they have some power in the relationship. It can also be tricky because different disciplines don't understand each other well. So our program is different from other students as partners programs because in lots of other programs, it's one student, one professor. And the student might be from a different discipline, so that power is gone. But the challenge of that one student meeting with that professor for the first time is huge. And our program is different because the students who co-designed it right from the beginning said, could we do this together instead of having to do it by ourselves? And so we've always made ours pairs of students going to meet the professor for the first time together. They might later do things one-on-one, but it gives them a sense of agency when they are two. New Zealanders are, I think we're confident people, but we're not, it's hard to explain. We're a bit shy sometimes, a bit reserved, and not as emboldened to sort of take the initiative and get out there.
Don't have that.
No, neither. In the United States, where students as partners kind of was born, there's no problem with pairing one student with one professor. They have much more initial confidence. It's not to say that New Zealand students are not confident. It's just a different kind of, a little more modest. Yeah, I wouldn't. Yeah, it's
In Italy, I think we have, because we're a geriatrical society, and the word, if you think about the Latin roots of teaching and learning.
oh yeah, to instruct. Yeah,
Yes, one is
docere.
primarily, but teaching and learning from Latin, it says here, they come from different sources. To learn is derived from the root discere, which is where discipline comes from. While to teach is primarily from dicere, which is where the to teach comes from. So we have a different starting point.
Yes.
Cultural.
Yes.
We also have, we're so lucky in Italy that we have millennial culture where we walk our culture, we breathe our culture.
Yeah. Yeah.
Every minute of the day, Italians are extremely rooted.
Yes.
And it's a very beautiful thing, I think, both in their language and in their history. So they have, huge amounts of knowledge from school. I think you agree, Italians, from your schooling, we're very, very rooted in our culture. I think perhaps the Italians tend to protect their own culture. Difficulty sharing. I can see that. I'm half Italian and half English. I appreciate it, but that was, our own.
Yeah.
Not share.
Yeah.
In fact, I have difficulty with my students because I do believe that we need to get the students to engage in open conversation, to exchange ideas. It's not easy here.
Okay.
It's culture.
Yep.
Yeah, I think the idea that a student might have agency, which is what I try to promote in my teaching, because I want my students to feel that I'm an agent, but my students are agents. I think Italians like that idea. They love that. They have a little difficulty because of the hierarchy that we have, where there's lots of respect given to teachers.
Yes.
I mean, I would never teach in England, for example. I wouldn't want to teach there. Italian students are extremely respectful. And there is a little bit of fear, I think.
Yes.
Our students are a little fearful. They don't want to be disrespectful. Very respectful. They don't even say you. A student would never even say, can you help me? They would use a grammar term, which is a polite form. Sonia was telling me that some of her students are talking about wanting to be called by their surnames now, not by their first name.
Wow.
Fortunate,
Wow.
for gender.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
we have lots of hierarchy, was my point.
Absolutely. Yeah. And
We have an intrinsic hierarchy.
yeah, and in New Zealand, that's not the way. Like if you introduced yourself as Professor Sutherland, it would be fine, but they would be calling you Kathryn pretty quickly afterwards, and that is not disrespectful. That's cultural. And yeah, so you then the structure of our program may fit yours even better here because you're taking people from who are not in a hierarchical relationship except on paper and putting them with somebody else. That if you tried to set up your students to partner with you, the fact that you're giving them the grades and that they must show you this deference in this respect would make this partnership very difficult. But if you're doing it with somebody else's students and the program is structured this way, it says to the students, we are giving you some of the control in this relationship. But just the structure of the program does that, because there's no grade associated with it. There's nothing that the student or the lecturer gets except the conversation. So I'll keep talking through, and you can keep asking questions as well. So they meet and they discuss, and I'll share the actual structure, how we get the students to a point that they are confident enough to do this as well. Before I go further, one of the students who helped to design this uses this phrase, nothing about us without us. And he's a Pacific Island student, and that's commonly used for Māori and Pacific Island cultures. If you want to do research on us, you need to do it with us. If you want to talk about us, you need to talk with us. So we've adapted this to the student staff partnership program with his blessing. So that's Ali he's on that side. Anyway, that's Ali. So I wanted to share with you the people who helped design this program. So Ali was our first student coordinator of the program. And then on the right is Isabella, and she became the student president the year after she participated in this program. And next to Isabella, standing next to me, is Emma. Emma was a PhD student when we designed the program, and she is now a senior lecturer in communication at the university. And this program really helped launch her academic career. It's been amazing to see her develop. And then there's one person missing, Brad. He was one of the students who helped to design the program. So me, Isabella on the right, and Brad, we flew to Canada to McMaster University in Hamilton, and we went to a thing called a Change Institute. And it was a 3-day institute where we basically designed this program. So it was about changing teaching and learning. And you went with a team. There was me and another professor from psychology and the 2 students. And you had to bring students with you. And the whole point of it was to design an initiative that you would take back to your university to change teaching and learning. So that was in 2017, and Isabella and Brad were the ones who came, and then we brought Emma and Ali on to the team when we came back and started the program in 2018. So I just wanted you to know we're holding awards that we won for the program 2019, I think it was. And you can see there's a poster in the background. So we've done quite a bit. Whoops, going the wrong way. And then this little guy is Osman, and he took over as student coordinator after Ali finished his health degree and left the university. And Osman, he was a very shy, reserved student on the autism spectrum, and he is now a secondary school teacher, which it blows my mind. The program did a lot for him, and making him the coordinator, I think, gave him a real sense of agency that he'd never had before. So, wrong way.
And at schools, we kind of lump everybody under a DSA, these kind of initials for, and nobody really understands. If somebody can explain it to me in Italian, I don't know what it exactly means. But
disability of learning.
yeah, we lump it under this umbrella.
It's called disability.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. We actually label them with this DSA.
We're way behind.
So that you're labelled. In fact, I was talking to a student the other day and I said, well, why have you got a DSA? How come you've got the DSA certificate? She went, I don't know.
Oh, so at our university, students can.
We do as well.
Yeah, we can.
We do it too. Yeah. That's our European concept.
At our university, students self-identify and they get a lot of support, but they self-identify and they get a lot of support, and we work with the disability coordinator to provide the support, but only if the student has said that they want the lecturer to know. So it's only disclosed to the professors if the students have given permission for that. Yeah, so our disability services is very inclusive in that sense, and it's about the student choosing to disclose that when they're ready and want to, and then we make whatever accommodations the centre has suggested. Yeah, so he didn't disclose that to me until, I don't know, a year into it. I worked it out, but yeah. Okay, where are we up to? So, has anybody come across this model before? This is from Mick Healy and his colleagues in the UK. So this is Mick Healy and his daughter Ruth and other people have done a lot of work on students as partners. And this is a model that informs many of the programs that are like our one. And you'll see that at the heart of it is partnership learning communities. And I like that, rather than saying students as partnership, it's students as partners. And around the edges are the values that inform these kinds of programs. So we've got things, I'm just going to see if any of them came up. Reciprocity is there, that came up at the beginning. Trust is there. But there's other ones. I really like the idea of courage. So we talk a lot about safe spaces, like making safe spaces for learning, but actually I think we need to make brave spaces. We need to embolden our students and some of our staff as well to be brave, to make innovation happen, to do different things. We need to give people courage. Plurality, to me, that's diversity and opening up to many ways of thinking. Responsibility, authenticity, honesty, inclusivity. And you can see the different kinds of ways that you can make partnership happen that are listed there. And the one I'm talking about sort of fills into the blue one: curriculum design and pedagogic consultancy, and learning, designing and developing. The summer scholarship fits down the bottom here, researching and inquiring. But there are many, many ways that you can do partnership with students. It doesn't just have to be on learning and teaching or on just undergraduate research. And this model has been the one that's informed a lot of programs. There's another model. This is from Australia, from the Student Voice Australia pilot program, which was very well developed in partnership with students. And you can see in this model that there's this idea of shifting from informing students to consulting with students, to involving them in depth, to partnering with them, to giving them full control. So it's a continuum where instead of saying, here's what's going to happen, you move to, you care about this, how can we support you to make something happen? And in the middle, you've got things like, here are some options, what do you think? Which is, I think, where most of us probably are. I hope that most of us have moved beyond inform and are at least getting to the consult stage, saying, this is what I hope to do with my teaching. What are your thoughts about this? Even just seeking feedback from students fits into that consult one. If we can move further down that spectrum, that will empower our students. So that's another very useful project to read if you're interested in this kind of work. That Student Voice Australia project really did some amazing work with students, and both of these have always been designed in partnership with students. This is one from Uppsala in Sweden, and you can start to see that there are things happening across the similar models. So they've got active student participation within a course, within a program, beyond their own discipline, outside scheduled class time, looking at planning evaluation. And the idea is that we are not just putting students into committee meetings and saying that we will consult with you. Student voice is not sufficient. We have to move to engagement and we have to move to partnership. It's not enough to put students on committees and consult with them. And that's what we've been doing for a long time.
That's an important step, isn't it?
It is. Yeah. Having students on committees is the first step, but having students chair the committees and come up with the ideas, that's where we should be getting to. So I wrote a book chapter a few years ago with Isabella and with our student rep coordinator about moving from student voice to partnership. And I talk about the principles there if you're interested in reading more. This one is from New Zealand, and this happened, you'll see there's a lot of Māori language in here. This happened during COVID. And what happened was all the students' associations across New Zealand in 2021, I think it was, got together and talked about how do we move from student voice to student partnership, and came up with these principles. And you'll recognise a couple of them. What do you see that you already know in there? Akoranga, yep, learning and teaching, and whakawhanaungatanga. So putting whaka in front of it means to make this happen. So whanaungatanga is the noun, and when you put whaka in front, it says, I am going to make whanaungatanga happen. So whakawhanaungatanga is building connections with each other. Whakapākari is strengthening, enhancing voices, and mahi tahi is working together. Mahi means work, tahi means one, but when you put it together, it means working together as one. So this was student-led. You can see the organisations at the bottom. Te Mana Ākonga is the National Association of Māori Students. New Zealand Union of Students Associations. Tauira Pacifica is Pacific students from across the country. The National Disabled Students Association, and the Ministry of Education. So the government actually funded it, and then they employed or contracted me and another person to support the students to design this. And so it was student-led. And this is saying this was then shared with universities to say, instead of just having students on committees, could we not do more? Can you give us more than just voice? We want to be partners with you. All right, so that takes us to then the design of our program. So this is the program that we designed. And as I've said, the students, the starting point is on the left here, but before the students meet with the academics, we do 4 weeks of training with them. Sorry, not 4 weeks, 4 Monday afternoons. So they meet 4 times before they go to meet with the professor.
Teaching motivations. That would frighten me.
Yeah.
So students actually observe and make
Yes.
and
Yes, and that's what we train them to do.
frighten.
Yeah.
That is normal.
It should be normal. You're absolutely right. Yeah,
My question is this voluntary?
absolutely. Yeah, it's voluntary for everyone. Yeah.
I can imagine that a lot of teachers would be resistant to it. I'm already seeing it in some of my students, very resistant to like sharing feedback, even, you know, fresh out of PhD, they're a postdoc, not willing to share.
Yeah.
I ask
So-
students to give me feedback.
Yes, so you can ask your students to give you feedback.
It's not to give me.
Well, of course they are, because you're in charge of them. You're in power over them.
Different to that.
I ask my students for feedback. I chat to my students all the time. I'm a very open teacher, but it's completely different to students conduct teaching obviously.
But they're not your students, right? So these are not your students. This is the difference. It is terrifying for some lecturers. So we are trying to shift this culture of teaching being private. This is one of the biggest problems universities have, is that we are very protective of our teaching. The idea of someone coming in to see us teach can be, for some people, as you've said, absolutely terrifying. Yeah.
From I mean, when I was doing teacher training, I
Yeah.
had teacher.
A peer come in, yeah.
Somebody above me who
Yeah.
watched and gave me feedback,
Yeah.
and I took that.
Yeah, I would be more terrified of that than students giving me feedback, yeah.
More worried about the students. The feedback. Practice and if you trust.
Yes, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. Also Europe, I think it often happens that you like share your way to teach or, and then they steal it.
Yeah, oh,
Make it something
oh,
bigger.
okay,
So really, this, I think.
I like your expressions.
yeah,
The problem.
okay.
Don't share.
I would love it if everybody was stealing everybody's teaching ideas. That would make teaching better across the whole place. Yeah. So something that we've done at our university, it was pre-COVID, and we need to bring it back because we've only done it once since COVID. We have something called, and this is something that if you've not done this before, your centre might want to think about. It's called Open Classrooms Week. And we invite about 10 award-winning teachers, and we ask them to open their lectures to other teachers. And then everybody can go and visit the lectures of the award-winning teachers.
Excuse me, sorry for interrupting.
Yeah.
What's an award-winning teacher?
Someone who's won a teaching award. Yeah. So, but you could just choose teachers that you know are good. So Barbara can choose teachers that she knows are good and ask them, are you willing to open your classroom? And you can say, yes, I'm willing to open my classroom. I can fit in 10 visitors in person and 20 people online. But you're not allowed to talk, you're just there to observe. So you're just coming and you're watching. So across the whole week, we might have 40 different lectures that are open, and you sign up and you go and visit and you watch this person teaching. And then at the end of the week, we have a panel with 4 or 5 of those teachers, and people come and ask questions about why they do it that way and what they can learn. So we're just trying to say classrooms should be more open than they are. Teaching should be less private than it is. I think COVID has helped because we are all far more used to being recorded now than we were pre-COVID. Pre-COVID, the idea of someone filming us teaching, for some people, that was one of the worst things that could happen to them. Now I think we are more at ease with knowing that our teaching is being recorded. Some people still find that uneasy. Yeah, Mr. Polytechnic.
No, I have only a question regarding this private.
Yeah.
Because it means that only the students attending the course can attend the course. Because here in Italy, for example, all the lecturers are public.
Yes.
So people
Good.
can come.
Good. Do they come?
This is the point. It's open, but probably not. There's no attendance that are outside the target.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
The exams are long.
if teaching is public, that's like wedding ceremonies. Anybody can officially go to anybody's wedding, but people don't, right? They are public ceremonies, but people don't. So we have a cultural shift to make to think of our teaching as public instead of thinking of our teaching as something between us and these students only. And also stopping thinking about our teaching and thinking about their learning. If we did that, it would be less intimidating to think about having our teaching observed. So something that I felt really empowered by, it was about 3 years ago, a student, we were working on how to improve teaching in the Faculty of Business. And we had a big consultation process. Students were involved. We were doing all these, coming up with ideas on the walls and post-it notes, and one of those full day activities where students were deeply involved. And one of the students said to us, why is the lecture hall the teacher's space when we are 200 students? That's actually our space, and we should be inviting you into it, not the other way around. And it blew my mind. It was the first time in about 20 years that I really had this massive shift in my thinking. The lecture hall is the student's space. It's the learning space, but we think of it as ours. and we're one person and they're 200 or 300. If we change our frame of thinking that they are inviting us into their learning space and we are agents for their learning, that might change the way that we think about our teaching. But that is a big mind shift. That's challenging for me to think this is their space, not my space that I'm inviting them into. I wish that our students felt a bit more empowered like that. I don't know how I got there, but I got there. Okay, so ACO in action, let me describe a little bit more about it to you. So the students get a scholarship if their grades are high enough. We don't just want the best students though. Yes. No. They get a scholarship if their grades are high, but if they don't have high grades, they get grocery vouchers or petrol vouchers, or we can't give them a scholarship because their grades aren't high enough, but we can recognise their participation in another way. And we have a leadership program that students can take extracurricular, and so they can get points towards that leadership program instead of the scholarship, or they can choose the vouchers. So we're recognising their time, but we are not paying them. And that is a very important distinction. They are not our employees. They don't have an employee identity. They still retain their identity as students. So a lot of Students as Partners programs deliberately pay the students because they say we value your work and time you're putting into this. We've decided to not pay them with wages, but to reward their time in other ways. It's not a huge fund of money that we have, but we have a lot of students taking the program even though they don't get a scholarship, even though they might already have enough points. We have repeat students. They've had the scholarship, they've had the points, they've had the vouchers. They come back and they do it for free because they learn so much from participating. They get the 4 training sessions. So Monday afternoon for 2 hours for 4 weeks before we put them into the partnerships. They get a workbook, the mentoring. So people from the previous program, there's always about a third of the students participating have done it before, and they run some of the training sessions now. It could almost run without us now because we've got enough students who have been through it. But there's always a churn of students because they leave the university. They do their undergraduate, they might go somewhere else for their postgraduate, or they might just be done. And so we can't keep the same students forever and ever. So we've set up a system where you become a senior and then you mentor others. So they've got the workbook. All of this was designed by the students. So when we came back from the Canadian Change Institute, we proposed the program, and the students, Bradley and Isabella, were fully involved in all of that. They presented the program to the provost, and we got the funding to offer the pilot. In 2018, we brought Ali on board, so there were actually more students on the planning team than staff, and we got the program running in the second half of 2018. And then I designed Word documents. They made it pretty. Students have much better design skills than I do. The staff partners, they get the consultation on their teaching. So we call it observational consultation rather than feedback. We actually try to avoid the use of the word feedback because that implies that the student has some power over the teacher because they're the ones giving the feedback. We talk about consultation and conversation. So you're having a conversation with each other about how to enhance learning and teaching in the course. Of course, feedback is used, and of course that's what happens, but we try to use language that encourages people to be less intimidated. Yeah. So at the moment, the staff only get 1 training session. We want to change that because that's not partnership. The students get 4 training sessions, the staff only get 1, but lots of staff wouldn't do it if they had to commit to more time than that. So we are working on a model where we can make a course for credit for the staff to take towards a postgraduate certificate. So they can do ACO in action and get credit toward their postgraduate certificate. That's happening in January next year. They get guidelines, they get mentoring from previous staff, and we have a celebration event at the end of each semester. These are the principles that we started with. So this is well established in the Students as Partners literature. These are the 3 principles. I think all of those words, except for responsibility, came up at the beginning, right? Respect and reciprocity. Responsibility says, you know, I need to be present, I need to be involved, I need to take responsibility, both sides of the partnership. So it's a very important concept in Students as Partners. So these were commitment. Yeah, you're making, and in fact, we have both sides sign a contract. And we gave feedback. So Alison Cook-Sather, I don't know if you've heard of her, but she is the guru for Students as Partners. So she started stuff, 15, 20 years ago, probably, in the States. And if you want to read anything on Students as Partners, just type Alison Cook-Sather and you will find so much amazing stuff. She wrote a book called, and I'll show you the title of it shortly, Building Confidence and Courage in Partnership, I think. And she shared the draft of that book with my team, with the students and me. And she said, any feedback you have, because it was about designing Students as Partners programs, and we were in the middle of designing ours. We had met her at the Change Institute. If you've got any feedback, we'd appreciate it. And one of our students said, why do students have to sign a contract and staff don't? And she went, it's a really good point. Like, there was a whole chapter in her book on the rules for students, but there wasn't for staff. And so we suggested if it's real partnership, then everybody should be. Yeah.
And if I'm not wrong, Cook-Sather also said that students must be paid for. And it's not just volunteer, and they are paid, and so.
Yeah. So she is very firm that you can't expect students to do this in a voluntary way. So they should get course credit or payment of some sort. We have chosen to do the payment through scholarships and vouchers, not through employment. That's a choice that we've made, that we don't let students go unrewarded. Yeah, we just do it differently from how she does it. Yeah. So those were the principles that we started with. But about, I don't know, a few months into designing the program, Ali, I showed you the photo of Ali, he said, hey, we've got these university values. These map onto respect, responsibility and reciprocity. Why don't we use our values as the basis of our program instead of somebody else's imported values? And this is why we work with students, because of course that's a better approach for us, to use our own values. So those are the core values of our program. And you can see that they map. So if you demonstrate manaakitanga to someone, you're showing them respect. If you are engaging in helping people that feel that they belong, it's respect. If you are protecting and guarding, it's responsibility. And obviously reciprocity is deeply embedded in akoranga, but the pursuit of knowledge is also about reciprocity as well. It's both of us pursuing new forms of knowledge. Yeah. So this became the founding principles of our program. And more than that, we named the weeks by the principles. And that was a student initiative as well. So this is just a sample table of the kinds of things that we do with the students. So the first and most important thing is whakawhanaungatanga, building that sense of belonging. So the students get to know each other. We run what are the aims and expectations of the program, but that's run by the mentors, the students who have done it before, not by us anymore. At first it was us, but now there are enough people to do it. In the second week, we have a launch event, the celebration event, with people from the previous cohort come along and they bring food from their culture, because there's often different cultures. We share food together and we have a panel of previous participants and you can ask every question that you have about the program. So that's a way of empowering the staff as well as the students to feel less intimidated. Yeah. In the third session, we do active learning exercises. So someone right at the beginning talked about active listening. Sorry, that listening can't just be passive, it needs to be active. So we actually train them in active listening, and we do some role playing and encourage them to ask each other open questions instead of closed questions, because to send two students to talk to a professor, it can be very difficult for them. And we have former participants who are associate deans who kind of have to do this as part of their job. And they come along and they let the students practice with them. And so that's been fun because we go and watch their lecture. So all the current students go and watch one of the associate deans lecturing, and then they come and pretend to be in partnership with that person. And those associate deans always get some good feedback as well. Akoranga reciprocity, in that first encounter, when they get sent to meet their person, they come back and share what that first meeting was like, so they can learn from each other. And some people, the meetings start at different points, so some people won't have a meeting until week 6. And so they can learn from the others who have had their first meeting already. And so constantly there's feedback from people who are engaged in the process. We talk about responsibility and stewardship. We do an activity where they share their notes with each other so that they can understand how to observe and what they're noting down when they observe. And the students in each cohort develop different observation protocols and all sorts of things. So different students take observation notes in very different ways, and sharing those with each other helps them to learn how they might go about that differently. So some partnerships will be one lecture observation and one conversation, and that's it. Other partnerships, the lecturer has the students come 4 different times to 4 different classes, and they do course design as well. It depends on what the partnership wants, and they establish that at the first meeting. Yeah.
I have a question about the feedback and how they're writing. There are some different classes of things to observe.
Yeah.
With completely feedback.
It's entirely up to the professor and the 2 students. They decide what they want. So for some professors, 1 class, 1 observation, finished. For other professors, they might have 3 or 4, and they will ask the students for consultation on their assessment or their course design. And so some partnerships might last for 6 weeks and some only for 1 or 2 weeks. And that's decided with the lecturer. So after we make the pairings, so we meet the students, we find out who the lecturers are, who want to be involved. And we're talking each time there's maybe 30 people involved, 15 students, 15 lecturers often. So the students might have 2 or 3 partnerships each across 1 semester. And we have to balance it because some partnerships become very complicated and long, and others are very simple. And so we have to keep an eye on how those partnerships develop. Checking in is very important. So the 4 training sessions are compulsory for the students, and then we meet weekly on Monday afternoon just to keep in touch and check in. It's not compulsory. Most of them come anyway because they want to keep learning from each other. In the new version next year, the academics, the professors will also have to come. And so that's going to be very different, but they will get course credit for this postgraduate certificate if they engage in this program. So that's going to change things a lot, having the academics involved. We may have separate classes. We haven't decided yet. So what questions have you got about any of this? Is this looking new or different to you, or you have something similar happening, or?
You did have one question that popped up from online.
Oh, yes, thank you.
Published this anywhere?
Yes. Excellent question, and I think that segues perfectly into where I'm going next. I'm just going to flick through my notes. I will come back to that. I'm going to share several places that we've published this. So the partnerships don't begin till week 4. So we do a lot of pre-work with the students and get them prepared for it. And you can see those principles coming through in the way that we've set things up. This is something that we do with the students. We use the value and we get them to work out what that value means in practice. So this was
Somebody's looking for the audio.
Luigi, anyone? What's happening there? So you can see in the middle is the word whai mātauranga. Can you remember what that one means?
Knowledge.
Knowledge.
Why is in Canes and Mātauranga means knowledge, right?
Mātauranga is knowledge and whai means to pursue. Yeah, well done. You're top of the class. Yeah. Okay, so in black in the middle is whai mātauranga.
Yes, so everything.
So this was a discussion led by one of the student mentors. So somebody who'd been through the program the year before led the students through this discussion to get them to understand what is whai mātauranga and how could you start looking for it in teaching practice. So how can you think about what this value is and how might teachers be doing whai mātauranga? So you can see the pursuit of knowledge, and they've defined it as intellectual curiosity. That's how it comes through as a definition in our university values. And in green are the questions that they've suggested the students could ask of the lecturer. So that's what the students as a group generated. So the student led them through this conversation and said, what questions could you ask the teacher that you're observing? What questions could you ask them about whai mātauranga? And this is what they came up with. So how does your course engage with place? So we've talked about that as a value. How do you use visuals to enhance teaching? How does your course provide tools useful in subsequent papers or courses and life? Where in the curriculum are you encouraging whai mātauranga outside your course? So you can see these are the questions that the students came up with that they could be asking their teacher. I wasn't involved in this at all. This was student-led, and I couldn't have thought of those questions as they were so well phrased. And this then gave that group of students lots of questions that they could take into their partnerships to ask their teachers. In red are examples of how they could do it. And so then if the student asks the teacher the question and the teacher doesn't have an answer, the student has got some examples that they can share with them. Yeah.
So the red bits are the student comments. So
the red, all of it's students' comments. So the green is that the student asked the group of students, what questions could you ask the teacher, about whai mātauranga? And they generated questions, and then they said, what if the teacher doesn't have answers to these questions? How might the teachers actually answer these questions? And that's in red. And so it gives them lots of tools to go into a conversation. Because what happens in these partnerships, we've trained the students well, we haven't trained the staff as well, and the teacher says, well, I just want you to observe and see what you notice. And the student, we've trained them to then say, well, how about we look at whai mātauranga and whether you're encouraging intellectual curiosity? And the teacher says, well, that sounds good. Let's do that. And then the students got all these questions that they can ask. And they've got examples of how whai mātauranga can actually be generated.
Scaffolded assessment here about what's known there.
Okay, this is from a few years ago, and this was the students coming up with this. So pursuit of knowledge and intellectual curiosity, it's built on. Scaffolded assessment is instead of one final assessment at the end of the course, where everything counts on that one assessment, you're doing small things towards that and every single thing is connected to the previous one and builds on the previous one. So it builds, that building metaphor is a powerful one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which we,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, so here's our process that we went through to create Alcune in Action. So we went to the Change Institute in 2017. We co-designed the Students as Partners program in 2018. 3 students, 3 staff were involved. One of the staff was themselves a student, though, but we hired her as a research assistant, and she's the one who later became a professor. In 2018, in the second trimester, we delivered the pilot with 7 students and 9 staff. By 2019, we offered it over 2 semesters. There were 53 participants. We've now got more than 250 participants have been through. As we've gone through, you can see in 2018 in the pilot, our principles of partnership were developed thanks to the students. So that's where we built the values in, and we made the week structured by the values, completely transformed the program. In 2020, we had to go online, and that changed everything. So we developed new resources, and the focus became on giving feedback on videos and on learning management system objects and resources. So we still managed to do it. It just wasn't quite the same experience. In 2020, we also introduced reflective logs because students stopped coming to the voluntary check-ins. And so each week they have to write a short entry reflecting on what's happened in their partnership during the week.
Like a reflective diary.
Exactly like that. And so we introduced that. We use Teams for that. We now use the online learning management system. We're now going to ask the teachers to do the same. So the teachers will be required to keep a reflective log from now as well. We have readings that we share with the students. We're going to share those with the lecturers.
Logs, or is it personal thing?
It's up to the student. So some choose to keep it very private, and they write it for themselves, to themselves, and they know that we see it, but nobody else. Others are happy to have them public, and they are using it as a writing experience to develop their ability to be more reflective. The reflective logs, for some people, have changed the way they go about learning in their other courses. Yeah, and we've had students now go and ask teachers, can you please introduce reflective logs for assessment in our course? This isn't even a course for students, but they found it really helpful. So we're still going. I'm not involved with the program anymore because I'm doing other ones. I miss it because it's so energizing. But it's been an amazing program for us. We've had lecturers come back 3 semesters in a row. We've had students stay in the program for 4 or 5 cycles. As I said, one of our students became a professor. There's been some amazing outcomes. So here are the publications. Yes. Yes.
Have you written a paper or a report about this Alcune in Action weekly session?
Perfect, Antonella. Thank you for asking. Yes, we've written 3. So here's the first one that we wrote. This is in an open access book that you can get very easily, and we wrote it with the 5 of us who designed it. And this was what we wrote about before we designed the program. So our Change Institute process was thinking about how do we get students more engaged civically with the community. And in fact, what we came back and decided was the community we need to get them engaged with is our university community. But we've argued that partnership is a democratic civic process. And so that's the first chapter that we wrote. The second one was in Alison's book on building courage, confidence, and capacity. Again, this is open access, I think. Oh, maybe this one's not. But Barbara will get a copy for the university, and then you can read it in there. So this one, Ali and I wrote together, and you can see the proverb that's at the heart of our program. With your basket of knowledge and my basket of knowledge, the people will prosper. So that one tells you about the process of co-designing it and a bit about the program. And then the third one we've written was in, yes, the Bloomsbury Handbook of, you'll see it's called Student Voice. And we're the final chapter in that book because we basically argue student voice isn't what we need.
No, agency.
We have to move well beyond student voice and we need to get into agency and partnership. So we talk a bit about the program. Osman and Claudia were the coordinators after Ali and Isabella. So there are 3 places. And then I've also written one with Isabella called The Value of Partnering with Students, something along those lines, that you can find. That was an early one that we wrote.
Sorry,
Yeah.
Katrina, we have 2 questions
Yeah.
online, so I don't know if someone want to read them. Okay.
I also want to have a question at the end of the presentation. Maybe it's easier to do it already.
You can do it now. Yep.
Hello.
Okay. Hi.
Hi. Yeah, thank you very much for the presentation. I just wanted to ask you a question. I studied a lot the student voice and student partnerships approach, especially I focused on the similarities. And what I in my studies is that already a kind of self-selection of students that take part in this kind of initiatives. So of course there is the attention, for example, in the American model, there was a lot of attention of underrepresented students and so on.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. But still, the number of students that can really take part in these initiatives is limited. And so I'm wondering if one of the next steps that we should take into consideration when studying partnerships would be how can we extend this opportunity to also people that are not already interested in this kind of approach. So I know it's a very big question, so I just wanted to know your thoughts about it.
Yeah, that is an excellent question. And it's one of the perennial challenges for faculty development in general, is how do we get the people who most need this kind of input involved in the programs that we run. And I'm talking about professors as well as students. So anything that a teaching and learning centre runs, often the people who come are the ones who don't necessarily need it. And the same happens with a program like Alcune Action. The students who sign up are the high achieving students, and it only improves their learning more. We were very proactive about getting underrepresented students involved very early. And so we had students from different cultures, different neurodivergent students, students who identified as non-binary or on different spectrums, and we're very conscious of making sure early that the leaders in the programs were from underrepresented groups, so that gave visibility to the program. In several years, we have actively sought people who have failed a course, because the people who have failed a course are the ones who can provide the kind of feedback that the teacher needs to meet their needs. But it empowers them in a way that other programs that are only for high achieving students don't. It is difficult to attract different students to the program, but we work with the students' associations to go out and recruit people from different places. We haven't scaled up the program in the way that we would like to. We think that offering the program as a course instead of so that students can get credit for it may help to scale that up. That's sort of the next step for us. But we are trying as hard as we can to make sure that there's a wide representation of students involved. Yeah, so that's something, if you're designing a program like this, you definitely have to keep that in mind. The chapter that I wrote with Ali, you can have a look in there about how we, this isn't working now, about how we thought about those kinds of aspects of the program. Thank you for that question. I really appreciate it. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
And I just realized I wasn't looking at you. I have
And
back to
then,
you. Now thank you for that question. Yeah.
Now there is Antonella.
Okay.
I
Does
think.
somebody want to read?
Already read. Have you ever?
Oh, that was about the publication. Yep. So we've done that. Am I able to get my Luigi help? How's everybody doing? Still awake? Okay.
Yeah. Do you
Okay.
need to stop? a
No,
little
I'm
bit?
good.
No.
Yeah, I can keep going forever.
Okay.
Okay. So, but does any of it work? This is the big question. So we did do some work to try and find out if it worked. So before the students started, we asked them, how much do you understand these values? And in red is not at all, right? So you can see that before they did the program, they had not encountered these values much at all. By the time they had finished, and then what kinds of reciprocal learning and teaching activities have you been engaged with before? So CAD is the Centre for Academic Development. So that was the least involvement, which is not surprising. We're a centre that focuses on professors. The thing that they had probably done the most of, empathising with academics. Some said a lot, some said a bit. One was honest and said not at all. Or, a few were honest and said not at all. So you can see that beforehand, they didn't know the values very well and they had not done much reciprocal learning and teaching activities. Afterwards, massive shift. And to me, that's enough. If this happens for the students, as far as I'm concerned, we've done our job, right? But the lecturers, there were similar movements for them. I don't think the lecturers' understanding of the values moved as much as the students, but it was good to see. I've started to realise that teaching and learning is so intrinsically linked that teachers really are lifelong learners. And the academics who participate in Alcune action demonstrate this. This was a student understanding that teachers are learners. And they hadn't ever thought about that before.
It's really nice.
It's nice. You know how you said before that you would be intimidated if a student gave you feedback on your teaching. Actually, having your students realise that you're learning as well is empowering for everybody. Yeah. Yeah, it does put you on the same level. Yeah. But it's not perfect. Maybe the program can match the students and academic staff earlier in the trimester. My students only had the chance to attend my lecture once because they were really busy in the second half. But we can't match them too early because we need to train them. So when this happens, we say to the academics, come back in another cohort and we'll give you an experienced student. So we try to get feedback from people and make improvements. After initial consultations and some feedback meetings, things fizzled out. I was too busy to chase this up. The student participants no doubt had their own work to do, so it sort of died naturally. Perhaps a more focused program would be useful. This lecturer didn't come to any of the things that we offered. So you can offer the focused program, but if you don't attend, and so the students would have got the message from that lecturer that they weren't that committed. And so it's no surprise that it fizzled out. But I mean, it doesn't always work,
So interesting to
It is, yeah. This is one of our cohorts, and I guess I chose this photo. This is the student mentors, actually, from one of the cohorts. And just to show you the diversity of the kinds of students that get involved from different countries and cultures and experiences. They look quite happy, don't they? I like that photo.
I was going to say that's meaningful to that photo, isn't it?
Yes, very, very much so. So let's come back to the question that I asked you at the beginning. What values might underpin the heart of a positive teaching and learning environment? You said some at the beginning. I think all of those would stand. And then we talked about what does your university value? We haven't talked about what values matter to you personally, right? So for some people, Equity and social justice are their reason for being, for some people, for example. For other people, ambition is their reason for being. Those are different people. Those are different humans. We all exist in this world together. What matters to you? Social justice. Okay. That was rhetorical, but thanks. Yeah. What matters to you? And do you know what matters to your students? That is the point you said? Yeah. I feel what matters to me is feedback from the microphone. Do we know why we're getting there? I don't know.
It's outside.
It's outside. Okay.
It
Okay.
depends also about the courses.
It depends about the courses. Why is that?
Because, for example, I can say my experience from Polytechnico.
Yep.
We are doing engineers and architecture, but depending on the courses, for example, I'm teaching in electrical engineering. Most of the students are coming from electrical engineering are from technical schools.
Yeah.
So what they do like is to improve and enhance their positions.
Yeah.
Other kind of students, for example, are more related to what I really, for example, mathematical engineering. What we have is mathematical engineering students or physics students. They would like to do engineering, but by studying math.
Okay.
Physics.
Yeah, yeah.
So only for having this kind of label engineering. So it depends. I think which is your final goal. You are going to do this for pursuing a passion.
Yep.
I'm not so much into the normal studies, but by seeing how many people are getting the degree in law, I think they go for passions, because not for a perspective work. So depends a lot of this.
Yeah, it's interesting that you talked about law, because in New Zealand, a lot of students from minority cultures are pushed into law by their parents. And they're told, do law because that's a good profession. So they're absolutely not there for the passion. They're there because they were told they have to be. And they probably would rather be in engineering or up the hill in gender studies or something else, right?
Is the equivalent of what I would like.
Okay.
Prestigious course,
Yeah.
Engineering, and our engineering student is the most.
Okay. So this is something to think about. Is do you ask your students why they are in your classes?
Yes.
Right? And when you find out that some of them are there because they have to be, that's going to be sometimes harder to teach those students than others. But if you ask them how your course will connect with other parts of their lives and start thinking about what they value in their life, you may be able to help them make connections and understand the relevance in a different way. I don't think we talk about values enough with each other and with our students. Like, one of my personal values is generosity. Like, I want to lead a generous life. Other people don't have that. I've just been in Palermo. It's a very Sicilian kind of way of being in the world. They seem to be very generous. Well, to me, they were very generous people. You were generous. You've been generous. Italians in general, right? But it's not necessarily a cultural value that is held by everybody. So in other cultures, collectivism is a value that is incredibly important, right? And so if you're in an individual kind of culture, so talking about values and thinking through how that might change the teaching and learning relationship can be very important. So what kinds of ways are you engaging in reciprocal learning and teaching? Like, reciprocity as a value in itself is really important.
And from our universities.
Yeah.
I'm teaching engineering because I'm an engineer.
Yeah.
I don't know which are the values of Polytechnico. I have my.
Yes. So if your institution doesn't have any espoused values, what are your values, and are you sharing those with your students? Right. So is trust important? If it is, how are you building it? How are you cultivating it? How are you talking about it? Right. So thinking through.
One of
my main priorities is to instill trust in the university student, to make sure that the student feels that they have agency.
Yes.
And they feel that they can come to me. I don't know about my colleagues because we don't work in teams and we don't have team teaching or anything. But certainly to make the student, I think that's because I was brought up in Britain, to make the student feel at the centre of his learning process.
Yeah, so putting the student at the centre of their learning, that is a very common term, that we need to be more student focused. I would argue that what we need to be is learning focused, because when we put students at the centre, that decenters us, which is fine because we centre ourselves too often. But if learning is the focus, if we are constantly thinking about who is learning, how are they learning, and it's us as well, because we are learning as well. Who is learning? How are they learning? What are they learning? Instead of always starting with what, because that's usually where we start when we design our courses and when we walk into our classrooms. We're thinking about, what do I need to deliver to these people today? Instead, we think, they are welcoming me into their learning space. How am I making them feel like they belong so that they feel comfortable to learn? Like, we need to ask ourselves these kinds of questions. Yeah. David Noonan.
The learner-centered curriculum, this is like 35 years.
Yeah, so there's been a lot of stuff. Yep. Learner, but that's learner-centered, and I'm saying we need to have learning-centered curricula. So there's been a massive shift in the UK, especially, to student-focused teaching. I think it's great. I think it's great that we're putting the focus on students, but actually where the focus needs to be is on learning. That's a personal belief. I've not written about it. I don't feel the need to. Lots of people are. But I think that if we constantly focus on learning, theirs and ours, we will transform our universities. And learning can't happen without trust. Learning can't happen without belonging. I mean, it can, arguably, but better learning can happen when people feel like they belong, when people feel respected, when people feel responsible. Yeah, Maria.
So one value that I have that I've tried to share with my students, that I think, like, and nobody's really said this word specifically, but I think it goes like it sort of, it's a really important one that is related to all these other values, self-reflection. And that's a way that I learn in the classroom, and I explain to the students. Well, I mean, it's not being humble. This is not like it explains to the students, like, you know, I can solicit feedback through like anonymous surveys or whatever, but I explicitly tell them that in this classroom I value self-reflection, both from you and from myself, and that it's a way that I can learn from you at the same way that you can learn from me.
But that means that you have to be humble.
You have to be humble as the teacher. Yeah. So one of the things that I discovered when I was Associate Dean is that there is very little teaching in the university of how to learn. So I looked at our curricula in the Bachelor of Arts, and there was no course anywhere that was teaching students how to learn. And so I created a work integrated learning internship course. So a course where students would get placed into a community organisation and do work, but they had to attend lectures with me, and the lectures were on metacognition and self-reflection for learning. And basically, I would have called the course How People Learn if I'd had the chance, but I made it an internship, so they got the work experience, but they also learned about learning. And we've instilled that into the Alcune Action program as well. So we have a session on what is metacognition and how can you be a more self-reflective learner. And so that's why the reflective logs, a couple of years into it, the students said, you need to force us to do this reflection because we're talking about it, but we're not doing it. Yeah.
Exercise look like the reflective log.
So we give them prompt questions and they have a reading that they do, and they can either respond to the reading or they can respond to the prompt question, or they can do both. And we give them feedback in the first few rounds of reflection, and because they're not used to saying what they think, they're used to writing what they think the teacher wants to read. And when the reflective logs are just for them and for their own metacognitive development, it's a hard skill to learn. So the prompts are important. And yeah, in fact, I think this is a really useful moment before I forget to enable you to do a little bit of self-reflection, because we've been here for more than 2 hours.
Yeah.
Yes, we have. Yep. I don't want you to leave without thinking about what's happened today that might change your own practice. So I want all of you here and online to just take this moment to look at any notes that you might have taken. I think most of you have just been listening, but if you have taken any notes, have a look at those notes and add more to them, or add an action to the notes that you've taken. If you haven't taken any notes, which is absolutely fine as well, some people are much better listeners than they are note takers, I want you to either write something down or imprint it on your brain in some way. Put it in your phone, put it in your mind somehow. What is one action that you're going to take as a result of the last 2 hours? Because you've given up 2 hours of your life today. You want to make that worthwhile. So think about the things that we've been talking about. What's one action that you can take in the next week, and another action that you could take in the next 6 months? So one short-term action that you're going to engage in, something to do with learning and teaching, hopefully, or it might be get a coffee afterwards. And one action that you could do within 6 months. And if your brains are tired, you can just say, read one of the articles that was shared, or investigate one of the models in more depth.
That you're talking about. This is something that I would like to do with my students.
I will find a reflective toolkit that some Australians have developed. I'll share it with Barbara and I'll give it to you. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to be quiet for 2 minutes while you do a little bit of reflection. Okay, everybody's written something. For the people online, if you're willing to put something in the chat, please do so. And for the people in person, if you can find someone and share one of your actions with them, if you're willing to, it will be interesting to see how different people's actions are. So if you're sitting next to someone, have a chat with them. If you're not sitting next to someone, just spin around and have a quick chat and share, if you're willing, share your actions with each other. And I think you will learn from what other people have decided to do. So maybe just jump in with these guys, or yeah. And if you're willing to share on the chat, please do so.
Just wanted to ask you, what was it you called that idea of the learning rather than the teacher-centered teaching, which is what
Learning centered.
It's
Learning centered. Learning with an ING.
That is
Yeah.
the biggest take.
It's very active as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for me, what my reflections are from the, hello.
Do you want to find someone to talk with?
So
Maybe try and do it in pairs, because you're never all going to get around. So yeah, you guys go there, you go there, and come and join with each other. Yeah.
Correct.
Do you know each other?
the idea.
Well, you will in a minute.
I love theory. I love teaching theory. I love to listen to lessons. But moving
Online people will be back in a few minutes.
How would I do that? So that's my big question, and I'm very interested in it as a teacher. But the most important idea that I learned was I'm a student-centered teacher, because that's my training from England.
Yeah.
And this idea.
Did you find someone to chat with?
Learning and moving through.
Okay, no pressure.
idea of-
I don't want you to feel there's no one teaching.
To learning essentially. I thought that last thing.
Yeah, for me too, it's the same.
That's
Oh.
the interesting thing, the most important thing. I am fully committed to that.
Like I say, I wrote my thesis.
Yeah,
David, you know, learn.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is a
step beyond.
Yes, change the first.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we can all be teachers, which is something I said to my colleague the other day. We can all learn from each other.
Yeah.
I mean, we have different styles, different skills.
No, it's for teach at university.
Yes.
So values.
Yes.
For me,
Yeah.
this is one of my was looking at the top of these.
Yeah.
Was looking at values. I think it's very different and it's cultures. I mean, I go into things. I'm on the first name Facebook technology.
Yeah, well, this hasn't been about that. No, this is about how do we work with students to improve our teaching. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're not first stage. This is the title.
Do I need feedback? Oh, for you to feedback to
Yeah.
that? No, that's okay. Yeah, I mean, it's just to share. Because some,
because.
oh, you do? Yeah.
Use.
I won't go round every
That
person.
you can
Yeah,
express
but
yourself,
the idea
there's
is
a
with an
different
activity
way
like
of,
this is if
behaving
you've been
that
here for 2
belongs
hours or half
in
an
the
hour,
class.
1 hour.
And so in the secondary school,
Oh, you were.
generally they
How do you,
don't talk at all.
from here, go out and do something different as a result of the time you've spent
Teacher
here,
and
instead of just listening to me and looking away
Yeah.
and not doing anything different? What could you do differently?
They arrive and
That's the idea. Yeah.
I
Yes.
ask,
Yeah.
once I ask to my students, why you
Yeah.
don't
For you. It's for you, not for me.
for me, because I want you to be active and
Oh, cool.
significant.
Yeah.
And so,
Teach a language.
yeah, yes. But the answer was, we are
Yes.
not used to.
Exactly. They always tell me.
And so, okay, you have to learn to be.
She was saying as well.
Yeah. I can't do that.
So this is something forgotten.
Exactly. Exactly. Yes. Yeah. You saw I came from there. I can't do it. This, I prefer this.
Deep listening, pair work, communicative methodology.
Yeah.
I do spend.
Yeah, of course.
It's unbelievable.
You
The
know,
values are different. That's a values clash. Yeah.
whole start from the root that is in the secondary school, teachers have the idea of follow a program. You know, they just follow a program, and you have to go on a hurry because you have to finish the program. So in the secondary school, this happened. And then you arrive at the university. and we have a scheda sua.
Yeah, it's not
and,
easy.
We have
Even in a culture
stuff
where
over
we're
the
not behind the
regulation. They
desk,
are
it's still
talking you that you have to follow this, and when people go out from
authority
lecture,
and distance.
they have to know this, and perhaps we have to change.
Sometimes
Yeah, it's difficult.
intimate
Yes.
because you have to
That is, I'm going to talk about that. That's a really, really good point. And what we need to be more transparent about our values.
That's
So
why
we
I
don't
think
confuse our
we need
students.
to
When there's a
talk
cultural
about
clash,
and
we have to explain
struggle
why we're
we
doing
believe, and I think
Yeah.
today we have
Yeah, oh yeah.
but
We don't have to be
how many
friends.
people are
We don't have
here.
to be friends, but we have to be welcoming and, you know.
So just count, okay? We will.
I sent her the email that we all see.
Yeah.
Did you see this? Because it might be interesting. We can go ahead. Now, I can't just tell everyone. I mean, the email.
No, of course. But we send a lot of email, and we insist, and we are always saying, okay, let's come and discuss, because, okay, it was really very interesting, but it's interesting to speak together and to share opinion, but it's so difficult. It's okay. We have a lot of stuff to do, and we are tired. But I think that sometimes it's also
It builds trust.
inspiring. Perhaps you can.
Demonstrating care.
What's your name?
Barbara Bruschi.
Yeah, that's very, very good points. Yeah. Okay.
She said the cons.
You are the
I
director.
would like.
No, I
Okay.
had until Monday.
I
the
feel
director for education.
that these conversations could go on and on and on. It's good.
Yeah.
So something came up in my conversation with people at the back of the room, and we were talking about when cultures and values clash, when expectations are not being met. And one of the examples that they gave me was that in Italy, this is common, that the teacher is there and the students are here. And you saw, how long did I last there? 3 minutes. No, I think it was about 8 minutes, but it was too long for me. That's not how I work, right? But if we are going to do things differently from how others do it in our culture, we need to explain to our students what we're doing and why we're doing it. So another of my values as a teacher is transparency. So I want my students to understand why I'm teaching the way I'm teaching. So if we are a teacher who comes out from behind the desk and comes up and gets the microphone and puts the microphone in the student's face, that's going to freak a lot of people out if we haven't first built up some relationships and we haven't helped them to understand what learning is and why learning happens differently in different contexts. So we talked about transparency being something that we probably all need to do a little bit more of. We need to express to our students why we teach the way we do. Whatever the way that we teach is, we don't very often explain to students why we're teaching that way. So what's that? Authenticity. Yep. If you are a better teacher sitting up there, stay up there. Don't try to copy me just because that's what I've done. Do what works for you, but do what works for learning. Do what works for learning. And often staying behind the table isn't what works for learning, but that's something you all need to grapple with and work with. Which pair or group of people would like to share any of the actions? This side of the room I haven't been talking to very much. Have you got anything you'd like to share? I'm going to hand the mic over. She says yes, very confidently.
I wrote, first of all, I will ask to myself which are my values, because maybe you have to, I don't know, like put them into, write them, fix them.
Yeah.
then ask myself if the values are the same as the values of my
Yes, yes.
And then compromise. I'm not a teacher, we are a tutor
Yep.
of a legal clinic.
You're still teaching, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You're not professor, but you're still teachers. Yeah.
If the answer is yes, so it's same, find a way to do something like that in uni. If not, find a way to do something outside of uni.
I love it. I think that's fantastic for someone early in their career like you. The earlier you can work out what your values are and try to lead a life that is values driven, the happier your life will be. Because when your values are in conflict with the organization that you work for, it's very confronting. So if you type into the internet values exercise, there are lots on the internet that you can just type in and that will offer you a list of values to choose from, and then you can scatter them around. And there's lots of ways that you can do that for yourself. So I encourage people, if you've never thought about it before, to do that. Yeah. Did you want to share as well, or you're happy with what? Okay. Giving this side a chance.
I wrote down some action. Don't mispronounce the names of the students.
Yes.
That is very important.
Yeah.
And maybe sit down and talk about values.
Yeah. Nice.
Because we don't share it
Yeah.
in our class
Yeah.
or in our clinic. And as a teacher, maybe it's important to do a reflective diary. Some reflective diary for our students that they fill out after every experience, practice experience. And also, we think it's important to break down the
Hierarchies, yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
that's it.
Yep, I love it. If you've not kept a reflective diary as a teacher, and even if you have and you haven't done it for a while, do it again. I did it when I first started teaching. After every class, I wrote what went well, what did not go well, and what will I change for next time. And my future self was always grateful to my past self when a year or two later, I taught the same course again and I had written notes to myself. And my future self was always grumpy with my past self and when I hadn't written any notes to myself, so I couldn't remember what had gone well. And a couple of years ago, after I came back from being associate dean and back into academic development, I started doing the reflective diary again for a while. It just helps us to be, I think, much better teachers. So that's a great activity. Anything from over here? Because I feel like I've neglected this side of the room. Did you want to share? No? Okay. Okay. Anything from the talkative people?
The chatty batties over here.
Yeah. Barbara.
I think it's really very interesting the fact of having a reflective diary, because we are with the Teaching and Learning Center network, we are thinking about competencies framework for teachers. And we were thinking about a portfolio, and we were thinking about having reflective notes and sort of storytelling, reflective storytelling. So I think that if we ask a teacher to start having reflective diary, then it would be easier for them to write and to think of myself, of their career, and so it's very nice.
So I will share with Barbara too. There's a reflective toolkit out of the UK, and then there's a lot of work being done on reflective practice by Marina Harvey and Agnes Bosenket in Australia. So I'll share those with you, and the slides from today I'll share, and Barbara will send them out to everybody who's here. Yeah. Is there anyone online that wanted to share if anybody's left after that long break, that wants to share any reflections? Yes. It would be interesting to discuss. Has somebody got that up?
How about the application of this in STEM education?
Okay, so good question. We've just written, we're doing some research with STEM instructors now on building trust in the classroom. And we've got 3 publications about that, about expressions of trust and how STEM teachers can build trust. Because in the humanities,
it's a given. Everybody understands that trust is important to build when you're talking about controversial topics, for example. But in engineering and science and mathematics, people think of knowledge as objective, and building relationships and trust with students isn't that important. But actually, it's arguably even more important, especially if your students are coming in with misconceptions and prior knowledge that is problematic. You need to build trust to find out what those misconceptions might be, what their prior knowledge is, who their relationships are, and who they're getting their information from. And how do we turn information into knowledge and knowledge into wisdom? You've got to.
Exactly about all this. Yesterday, I attended the first class of this year, and I passed 10 minutes with them to discuss with the students, very long for me, for the students, so it was possible. Exactly understanding which is the goal of our database exercise.
Yeah.
The idea was to understand the topic, so not stopping to what them explain, but testing with their own ideas.
Yeah.
Where we say with money and make a discussion. Exactly forgetting, because, for example, I told them we did an artificial intelligence. There is no necessity to create fancy things, but we're predicting. We understand. So for being predictive, the only discussion with the other senior people can open you the possibility to be predictive regarding the results, and then you become a good engineer only if you are a predictive.
That's interesting. That's very interesting, because language learning is about being predictive.
Yeah.
So that's kind of nice to hear you in your
absolutely
using techniques that we use. And language learning is all about being able to be predictive.
So watching each other teach and seeing how they encourage prediction would be really good. So prediction is a skill that students need to develop, and it's a core tenet of effective teaching. But what we often do is we do the predicting for them. And so we need to think, how do we encourage an environment in which they are emboldened to make the predictions themselves and then be wrong? Because they often predict it wrong, right? And then they find out, oh my gosh, I thought it was going to be something completely different. And it's exciting seeing them get it wrong and then work out what's the right answer or the different approach. Yeah.
So it's very nice what is happening, because in July we have the first meeting of the Piedmont network of teaching and learning center. And so we are in contact. We have created a network with University of Piedmont Orientale, with Politecnico, and our teaching and learning center. And so we have some ingredients in order to work together.
The first one will happen?
We had a first in July. We
participated. They told me about that. I was involved in the
yeah. But and we think to work together and to try to organize some stuff together. So I think this may be the first.
I predict that learning will happen in collaboration. Yeah. Other actions that people are going to take that they have committed to taking. Did you want to share? You haven't said much.
One things that I thought about is the values, because usually I give values because the teacher archaeology have one value.
Yes, absolutely.
That, I mean, maybe I should state since the first class clearly what is my value. Because usually during course, the first class is more about theory, the second class more organized about practice. So I split them into groups. And I put a problem, a task to solve, and they have to do so cooperating by themselves, also having different views.
Yep.
And so I think during the work, I do this. So maybe it's better, to state clearly that archaeology is about cooperation, also because we deal with different kind of experts.
Absolutely.
So we need to collaborate. It's not a single individualistic job.
Absolutely.
And I think it's a transferable skills that you use in your life.
For sure. So maybe even what you could do is in that first class, if you have a theory laden or theory heavy first class, your students might not come back. So you have to be careful, like what you were talking about. The first thing you do with your students should be something that helps them to feel that they belong. And so talking with them, asking them, what do they think the values of archaeologists might be? So instead of telling them, archaeologists value cooperation, the first thing that you could say to them, besides introducing yourself and welcoming them and making them feel like they're in the right place, is saying, what do you think might be the values that drive an archaeologist's approach to their work?
Because usually I do so with what about you? What do you think about archaeologists? But in terms of discipline, not values. And so they with a mobile phone, it's then a cloud.
Yeah, cool.
But rather
you can do both. Yeah.
The values.
Well, you can do both, right? They're both important because helping them. So the values of your discipline might be a useful way in. So you don't have to go straight to personal values or university values, but your discipline definitely has values, right? And
so
exactly, like tell me what your personal values are. Yeah, what's your culture? What is your, you don't want to make people feel on the spot, and you don't want them to feel like the spotlight is shining on them, not in the first class anyway. But what you do in that first class affects the entire semester. Like whatever you do in the first class, that's what they will expect. So if you want cooperation and problem solving in the second class, you need to do a little bit of cooperation and problem solving in the first class. So then that builds that expectation. The first impression that you make about what learning is, this is even a question you can ask your students. What does it mean to learn in this discipline? How have you learned in other courses? And talking about how you will teach to help their learning. And not telling them, but asking them, what does it mean to learn?
With the grade systems. I say the grade system that makes you a grade.
Yeah.
No, but the grade is not providing value for you.
No, the grade is, yeah.
The grade as a final.
Yeah, that's what students think, that's what learning is the grade at the end. That's the curriculum for them. It's the grade. I was that kind of undergraduate student. My entire goal was get the A plus, do whatever the lecturer tells me to do to get the best mark that I could get. I didn't learn much during my undergrad. When I got to my master's, I finally realized that learning is different from achieving. And I had spent my undergrad achieving, and I realized that actually learning was much more fun and a much better way to be in the world. And I started getting worse grades, but learning more. And yeah, but that, I wish I'd learned that earlier. Yeah. Yeah. It's something that I wish I had found out as a younger person. Yeah.
It makes me wonder though, I've just had a thought about how does this translate into students getting jobs?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what is it that people who are hiring are evaluating more? Like, students assume that the grades are really important to get a good job. And so, like,
yeah, there's a lot of research being done on employability and what employers are looking for. And if the student has the degree certificate and it's on their CV, that's actually what matters far more than what their grades were. But I guess if the jobs are really competitive, then grades might be looked at. But we all know that the grades that we got in our undergraduate degree have never been looked at again since our first job, right?
Nobody looks,
Yeah.
nobody cares.
Yeah. There are some professions where the grade matters intensely. And that I think that's problematic as well, because actually work integrated learning and internship experiences can provide you with a better sense of whether a student's capable to work in the profession than whether they got the A+ or whatever the grade is. But we're really going into different territory now. But yeah, this is what happens when you ask people what actions they want to take. Yeah. Does anybody else want to share an action before we finish? Did you want to say anything? You don't have to. Okay, Maria.
This is my action. I'm doing it right now. What is the basic resource that I could look for that, and how can we figure out how to transfer this idea of partnership into actual things I can do immediately in the classroom?
My action was to ask you.
That's a really, really good question. I have many possible answers. Okay, I'm going to give you two. There's a book called Small Teaching by James Lang, and it's one of the best books I've come across in a long time. The principle is if you just change one thing at a time, it will slowly build up to a transformed learning environment. Small teaching. And each chapter talks about things like prediction, retrieval practice, interleaving, like the science of learning, but he puts it into ways that you can understand. And he provides some of his stories are not so great. They're very North American, but the examples, but the principles in there, they're very easily understood. He writes in a way that's easy to understand, and he gives some really great suggestions. So that's one suggestion. Read the book, Small Teaching. There's a new edition of it, came out just a couple of years ago. James Lang, Lang. And there's an online version of it as well. The second thing, this is something that would require a little bit of work, but there's a MOOC, a massive open online course for university teachers called Contemporary Approaches to University Teaching, CAUT. And it was developed by a group of Australians who work together collaboratively in cooperation to develop a MOOC. It has 24 modules, and you can go in at any point in the module.
Or Coursera or
It's
Future Learn?
Canvas.
Oh, okay.
And it's free.
Yeah.
It just started in July, so it runs twice a year. It started in July, but you can start anytime, and it will finish in December.
Do you remember the title of it?
Contemporary Approaches to University Teaching, CAUT, MOOC, and it's free. You can get a digital badge if you do 4 or 8 modules, and they recommend to you, depending on what kind of teacher you are, where you're at in your career, they recommend different pathways. The modules are taught, or they've been designed by people from different Australian universities. So you're not getting the same people all the time. And each module looks quite different from the other. So that would be, you could go in and look, I think there's one on scholarship of teaching and learning, for example. I don't know if one of the modules is on partnership, but it might offer you something. And then in terms of partnership, anything that Alison Cook-Sather has written is amazing. That one book that I shared with is The Power of Partnership. That's a free book that you could read, The Power of Partnership. And it's entirely free to download. I'll see if I can get back to it. That one. That's free. So you don't even have to spend money to download that one. And then this one, if you're wanting to build a partnership program, that book will give you some really good ideas for how to build a partnership program. Yeah,
that's a wild idea, actually. Still, that's really new.
Yeah, that's like next level. Yeah.
That's next level. Yes, to use that.
Yes, we will share the slides. I will just take some of the photographs out because they make them too.
The contemporary approach.
Yep.
Is that from this university in Australia?
Yes. Yeah.
So it could be
the Slow Academy.
The Slow Academy. Yes, she's one of the creators of it. Yeah.
Okay.
So there's the link there.
Okay.
September semester 2, 2025. That's it. Yeah,
This one.
yeah,
Yeah,
same.
the
You
same.
can get to it.
Online asked if you could share the link to the MOOC. Maybe.
Yes, we can do that.
Yeah.
When Barbara shares the slides, I'll put the MOOC link into the references. Yeah. Actually, that will take.
That goes right from the beginning, teaching your first one.
Exactly. Yeah.
I have already put in the chat.
Oh, thank you. So this is my last slide with some of the references from today, but you will get this. You'll receive this, so you don't need to copy it down. I'm happy to keep chatting. The people who are online have been sitting for 3 hours now, basically. So I think we'll probably free them. Yeah, thank you very much, people who have been online, for coming along and for putting up with this long. It's different when you're not here in person. So I hope you've survived. And thank you for being there today. We'll send you the resources, and yeah, we will free you to go and have some lunch now. Okay.
Thank you
Thanks,
very much.
everyone.